Do it again, do it again.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Other People Podcast. I am your host, Jordan. With me, as usual, is my friend Andy.
What's up?
And our cover artist and resident ninja, QuickKick.
What is going on, Internet? What is going on?
Yes. And today's topic is this has been kind of buzzing around in my head for a little bit. Let's talk Capcom. So, the early days of arcades and consoles, of course, saw the rise of fighting games in the fighting game genre in 1991 with Capcom's Street Fighter 2. I remember that being a very prominent game and the very start of the fighting game genre, though the very first fighting game was made, as I believe, in 1976 with the arcade game Heavyweight Champ, which is very Atari style. Well, I mean, after all, it was.
It was basically just two stick figures boxing each other.
They weren't even stick figures. They were kind of animated.
Huh.
Because the arcades obviously had a little bit more, programming power to them as opposed to the Atari.
Yeah.
And I believe the Atari could have some programming power to it. It was just that they put, such a heavy rush on putting their games out that they, didn't think that maybe we should actually try to make this game good. But,
Oh!
no, that would require input on our part. But anyway.
Yeah.
That's
when you wind up with a game like E.T.
Yeah. But more often than that, they did do, more than just the fighting game genres. They started... Hell, they had a contract for a little while during the Nintendo days with Disney, where they were... And they actually put out a lot of really good games. They did... I know there was a lot of Mickey Mouse related games. There were the DuckTales games. There was a Darkwing Duck game that they did that I heard is done in still the Mega Man style, where it's a platformer sort of run and gun style game. I've never played it, but I heard it was good. And of course the Resident Evil series, Devil May Cry, the Ace Attorney series, and even the Monster Hunter series as well. Now, QuickKick, I know you're not as familiar with Capcom, but have you played the Street Fighter games or like any of those other kind of games that I mentioned?
I had kind of a mixed random interaction with Capcom and a lot of their properties. I have played some of the Street Fighter games, not in any successive order, but just more of lines of opportunity, like it was at a friend's house, or I found it at an arcade that I just happened to be at that day. It's less of a dedicated following with their properties, and more of just every once in a while I would find something. You mentioned the DuckTale game. DuckTale, I remember I loved the show, and I did try the game out at one point. But I cannot remember if it was a friend's house or if somebody let me borrow it. But I've interacted with them from time to time.
What's probably the first game of theirs that pops into your mind as being maybe one of the first games that was your introduction to them?
Probably, and correct me if I'm wrong. It's been years. The Sonic or you remember that kind of cheesy Jungle Book game that came out? The It was a Disney property, but I think it was either Capcom or somebody released it.
Was it a console or arcade?
It was definitely a console. Maybe I'm thinking of the Sega. Yeah, I might be mistaking them all for Sega. I think that's probably what it is. I think I'm mistaken. It's for Sega.
Okay.
If nothing else, definitely the earliest thing I can remember from Capcom would probably be that DuckTales game. You know,
Hmm.
that's definitely. Let's see here. The show was on through the 80s. So that game probably came out late 80s, if I'm remembering correctly.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would definitely be something that would be the earliest property from them that I would have ever had contact with.
Mm. How about you, Andy?
Uh, I'd probably have to say Mega Man 2.
Yep. Yep. Me too. Me too. Um.
Yeah, and I beg the internet's forgiveness, but I completely missed that train.
Yeah.
It's apparently it's everyone's between that and Metroid. Those are two of the big old school trains that I missed the boat or missed the train on that one.
Yeah.
That's all right. We forgive you. Well,
Kind
I
of.
forgive you. I don't know about the internet.
Yeah. Well, the internet is never as forgiving as I am, but but yeah. I mean, like two very prominent games that really stuck out for me when I was a kid. Obviously, was Mega Man 2. I never played Mega Man 1 until like years later. And then, of course, Street Fighter 2. Actually, playing that in the arcades.
hmm
But Capcom, and it's funny because mainly I want to have this discussion because over the last couple of years, Capcom has been having a lot of really shitty business practices lately. But when you think about it, they've actually been doing this for decades. Really.
It's just now we're actually noticing it a lot more.
Yeah. Because QuickKick now, and this was really only on the consoles. This wasn't in the arcade because I doubt you could really get away with. Well,
Then again, the arcade itself, you think about that idea, is like, man, that is a kind of a money making scheme in of itself.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
Some of those games, man, just quarter city, man.
oh yeah.
hmm
Um, and it's funny because uh, okay, so what Capcom did, and I don't know how familiar you may be with this Quick Kick, but when Street Fighter first came out onto the console, which was Street Fighter 2, because nobody had ever played the very first Street Fighter game. Hell, never even heard of the very first Street Fighter game, and for good reason, because
It
not
was
until a
horrible.
few, uh, not until like a few decades later, either on the Capcom Collections Volume 1 or 2, they included original Street Fighter on there, and it's dog shit. It is terrible. It's clunky. There's no character selection. Uh, and it's impossible to even just do a fireball move, or really even any move in general. Basically, it kind of takes off a lot from the Karate Champ games, where it's
Oh,
uh, where it's kind of slow. It's not like one hit kill style. You do still have your life bar, but oh god, it's so clunky. It's so terrible, and obviously, I imagine original Karate Champ is not aged very well at all either. But what Capcom did with Street Fighter 2 when it came out onto the console was about a year later, they released what would now be deemed as probably a DLC or an enhancement pack, which was Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And then another year later, well, and even on the Sega Genesis, there was Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition.
hmm
And then another year after that, it was Super Street Fighter 2.
And then you had
And
Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
yep. Yeah, and all of these, I believe, were all released within about a year apart from each other.
hmm
And I mean, there is obviously a good reason why you didn't see the arcade versions of this, because obviously a lot more money would have had to been thrown into that just for the manufacturing of the arcade parts and then the arcade shelves and such, and obviously it was a lot cheaper to just release those on the consoles. Uh, See, nowadays that would be kind of looked at as bullshit. I don't know how many people bought all of those different games in succession, especially for probably $50 to $60 a pop.
Mhm.
But
Yikes.
but yeah, and what's worse is that, well, I mean, that's not necessarily worse because that's not, well, kind of is. See, it all started for a lot of people with with Marvel versus Capcom 3, the big anticipated sequel of that big crossover fighting game genre that Capcom kind of started in a way.
Mhm.
I don't know who started it first, whether it was Capcom or SNK or whoever. Um, but Capcom was kind of the big one to really start, doing a lot of those games with Street Fighter versus X-Men, and then Capcom versus Marvel, and so on and so forth. They just got bigger and bigger and bigger. So much so that when they made Marvel vs. Capcom 2, it was a huge character roster of both Capcom and Marvel characters.
Mhm.
And so much so that when Part 3 came out, it was probably like 10 years later or so, and people were just clamoring and begging for another game or sequel for that. And they
Yeah.
finally got it, and I remember hearing about it during some of the E3 coverage back then, and I remember them saying, "Oh well, we remember some people were complaining about how from 1 to 2 there was really no story. Well, this time there is going to be story. If you have the booklet, there's a story, but in game there's really no story."
Yeah. There's like a hint of a story in the opening movie,
Yeah,
but that's about all you get.
yeah, and each of the characters all have their own ending, but since you don't really know the story unless you bought the game, then you get it.
Yeah.
And as I understand it, from 2 to 3, the character roster is actually a little bit smaller.
It is.
There are some more characters who were never in the previous ones, like Deadpool is in there, which of course is a crap ton of fun and cool.
Yeah.
But what happened was, I think, I don't know exactly, 6 months later or so, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out as its own separate title, and if you bought Marvel vs. Capcom 3, you're fucked because Ultimate is its own separate game with no connection to Marvel vs. Capcom 3 at all. Like no DLC linkage or anything like that. It's its own $50 game.
It just Capcom just kind of screwed everybody in the butt.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you bought Marvel vs. Capcom 3? You're going to have to buy it again.
But I don't want to buy again. Too bad.
Well, too bad. Fuck you.
What were the main differences between the two games?
There's 6 additional characters. They fixed a few different things for online matches. I think there are a few other changes that they made. That's about it, as from what I understand.
Okay, so essentially I'm understanding this controversy is essentially that you put out what is overglorified DLC as a full price game, and
Yep.
it doesn't have any
Pretty much.
cross talk with its predecessor.
It has none.
Okay, yeah, it's funny. When you think about how often that controversy is becoming a thing these days,
Oh,
is
yeah.
a the most recent and obvious glaring one that I could think of is the Order 1886.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's all up in arms about that, or even Evolve. People have
Mm-hmm.
been pointing that out. So it's um it's definitely a big growing topic, and I could definitely see why, especially for fighting games. Why you would be so upset about something like that. Um, yeah, and it's funny because you look at it, and at least from my perspective, again, being a layman as far as that genre and that game and that company, but it seems like you know you always benefit more when you got games and we got things and properties that interact with each other. You know, and it's
Hmm.
interesting that if you got two properties like that, one, why didn't you just release it as DLC or as a, add-on? Well, you got the obvious reasons they want to make full price money from it.
Hmm.
But two, why wouldn't you have the two of them function together, or why wouldn't? Because I'm assuming any online or multiplayer with the two games, they're not going to cross chat either.
Nope.
Is that correct?
Nope.
Okay, yeah. So that's even worse because now you just whether you meant to or not, you just openly putting out the idea that yeah, we're just gonna put in the minimal amount of effort and just try to gouge more money out of this property.
Yeah.
Then yeah, I can see why people would get upset at that.
I do actually wonder for how many people who aren't as well informed, for people who don't hop onto gaming websites on a regular basis for reviews or for news or anything like that. When a game like Marvel vs. Capcom 3 comes out, and then you know some odd months later, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 comes out, and then them being uninformed, they buy it anyway, and they don't bother to think that, oh, I'm just rebuying this game, but it's got a few added things to it, and then that's it.
Yeah, I'm sure that happens a lot. Matter of fact, I know that happens a bunch. Because we're up in our we're up on our social media. We're up on critics, and we like to keep up with the things that are going on in the industry because we're people like us. We're into the video games. We like to be in the know.
Mm,
And it's like take something as controversial as like the Connect. Like I remember when
mm-hmm.
when that whole debacle was going on, most people who are into video games, who are into video game criticism, did you, they couldn't stand the Connect. But
Yeah,
then I've known certain people out in real life who are just kind of like, that was a cool idea,
yeah.
just kind of that
Well,
attitude, just because they're not that into the video game world. So
yeah,
unless it's a like it's something that breaks the game, Battlefield, unless it's something that breaks the game, then it's not really going to affect them all that much. But in this case, I would be hard pressed to see how they wouldn't notice that. It was like, wait a minute, I just bought this game. What you guys say? 3 months ago, I think it
mm-hmm.
was a 3 month time. Yeah,
I I think it was about 6 months apart, maybe,
yeah.
maybe.
So yeah, I think even the average person would look at it and say, is this a new game, or is this, why am I buying this already, or are they just putting out games fast? I think even your average person would have cause to pause for a second and be like, wait a minute, am I having deja vu?
Well, hopefully. I mean, I don't have any idea as to what exactly sales figures are, or even how to try and look that up. I mean, I know there are some game critics like Angry Joe, who, when he talked about that, he was furious about it, and just
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Well, he was even making a joke back when the first one came out that they're going to do that, and then they went and
yeah,
6 months later they did it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, but not just that. I mean, when Street Fighter Cross Tekken came out, and to be fair, uh, I rented uh, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, because I'm never really too sure about when or even if I want to spend, like $60 on a game. Like the only times I've bought a game before I rent it was I bought Skyrim, because I'd heard so much about it. Hell, I bought the Smash Brothers games because I just knew, well, I had played the previous titles and I loved them, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna love this one.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, obviously when it comes to specific titles, but nowadays when it comes to other things that I'm, really not so sure about, blah, 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 I will often always choose to rent first. And I rented Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I enjoyed it to a point, but I was like, I don't really want to spend the $60 on it. I'm glad I didn't, because I would have been furious. But it wasn't just that. I mean, when they later did the Street Fighter Cross Tekken game, and as I understand it, there's still supposed to be a Tekken Cross Street Fighter game where it's done Tekken style, where it's 3D. And they still haven't done that, at least as far as I know. And I mean, there was even some controversy with that, where for some console versions, there were characters locked on disc that you had to pay an extra $20 for to unlock them on the disc. No shit. Just what the fuck, Capcom? And they were trying to claim, oh well, it's DLC, but according to a lot of information, they were already on the disc, so it wasn't DLC. It was unlocked disc, was what it was. And I remember trying to explain that to a buddy of mine, and he just didn't understand it. He just kept thinking, well, I mean, it's DLC. Like, not if it's on the disc! If it's already on the fucking disc and you're paying extra money for it, that's not DLC! That's just bullshit!
Yeah, it's clearly it's programmed into the disc. You're basically just paying for stuff that should be there anyway.
Yeah. I mean, in most cases, when you have hidden or locked characters, maybe they're unlocked via gameplay, like, oh, you played this particular mission on this game on a particular difficulty level, you unlocked this brand new character. Like, hell, Smash Brothers does that all the goddamn time. Hey,
there's like a particular sequence that you can go through to unlock them.
Yeah.
Not
yeah,
that,
pretty much.
You want this character? You're going to have to pay us $20.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if that is the exact price. I think that might be the overall price for, like, all of the extra characters, I guess. Which... And I had no interest in Street Fighter Cross Tekken, really. I mean, it looks like a fine game, but I mean, I kind of fell out of Street Fighter. I mean, I did like Street Fighter 4, but, I mean, in most cases, if I'm going to play a fighting game, I would rather want to, try and play it with my friends, but I don't really have a lot of people that I can really play with anymore. And, I mean, the only other fighting game that I do enjoy playing from time to time by myself is Mortal Kombat. But even then, I mean, that's pretty... I don't know. Well, no, that's not true. I did play a lot of Smash Brothers, but by myself. And which I ended up doing a lot last night, so... But yeah, it's just such a strange thing that now, and I mean, I guess that's kind of died down or calmed down a little bit now. The only other controversy from Capcom that I'm aware of comes from their other studio head, which is Capcom Japan. And I heard about this on Angry Joe's channel, where they were trying to advertise Street Fighter V. And so what they did was they sent out press information out to particular game critics. Well, this was via Capcom USA, as I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Where they sent him a whole bunch of press stuff for him to use for to advertise like Capcom 5, like their logo and like game images and stuff. And he uploaded it to YouTube, and it got hit with a copyright claim by Capcom Japan, who, it was like, you can't use this material. It's like, well, Capcom gave this to me, like, not Capcom Japan.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah, and it's like, why would you have these two different influencing structures that think completely differently from each other. I mean, obviously, Capcom Japan has not embraced, and I guess never really will embrace the whole YouTube thing or anything like that. I mean, there are just some companies that are not willing to really change or try to move on or anything like that. But I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of, and in some cases I can understand because it feels like, well, they're stealing our material that we didn't give them permission for. Though at the same time, like, it is free advertising for your game. It's people just talking about, hey, I played this game. I think it's really cool. Blah blah blah. I mean, I just want to show it off for you guys. And it's you, just playing the game or just talking about it, whatever. But I don't get it. I don't.
Well, it's kind of the corporate disconnect between. I don't want to say modern or I don't want it to seem like it's an old versus new kind of thing. I don't think it's quite that, but it's definitely a lot of clashing demographics coming into play here. The internet's always big on sharing.
Yeah.
It's always big on like people have said, we are smarter than me. That kind of mentality. And in the corporate world, that exists to a degree, but not everywhere, and not to such a degree. Especially in Japan. Not to make you blanket statements about anybody, but there's a lot of industries in Japan that are just like we were talking about, they're just kind of set in their ways, and they don't want first you got the corporate culture of sharing your product with the opportunity that it might get lambasted. It might just get slammed, and then negative review equals less sales. Less sales, that's no good. So why would we want to take the chance of having less sales? You know, and then like the thing with Angry Joe with critics. He's like, well, why are your counterparts giving me material and you're coming in and stopping me? He said he's always having that constant fight with the Japanese counterparts of these international corporations. So you can kind of see it from a business point of view where it's you're trying to eliminate risks. That's kind of that's the whole thing of business is you're trying to maximize your profits, minimize your risks and costs. You know, so I can see why they, especially older generation people who have been fighting copyright laws forever. You know, it's kind of like you look at Hollywood with those copyright laws now. You know, they're you wouldn't steal a purse, would you? You wouldn't steal a car. Why are you stealing a movie?
Stealing a movie is just like mugging and beating up an innocent old woman. You wouldn't do that, would you?
Yeah, it's exactly that kind of
That's like heavily exaggerated, but okay.
yeah. So you got a lot of that clashing with people who look more at the internet as an opportunity.
Yeah.
They look at YouTube critics as an opportunity, to garner good relations with customers and stuff. And it's not just Japan either. Look at speaking of Angry Joe, you look at when he did his episode on Gary's incident day one or whatever. You know, that was an independent American, I believe American. Uh, that was an independent American company that he had all those problems with because the guy gave him his game, he didn't like it, so he slammed it on a review. Excuse me, Total Biscuit actually. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Total Biscuit came in, slammed the game, and then the guy, tried to flip the script and say, "Well, I didn't give you permission anyways."
Yep.
You know, and so yeah, like I said, it's definitely all about clashing demographics whether it's business or whether it's YouTube commentators, button heads. So I think that's where you get a lot of those issues from.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much so. Okay, so final thoughts. Okay, so like a while ago, they released the Resident Evil Revelations 2 game, but
Okay.
apparently it's now an episodic series now. Like episode 1 just came out, and as I understand it, episode 2 is going to come out, I guess, sometime next week. Because we actually talked about this briefly during the Jason Murphy uh, interview, and he said that apparently the game is already finished. They're just releasing it in like short burst episodes, which
Mm-hmm.
is very odd. Um,
It sounds like they're trying to capitalize on the indie game things, like the people that are doing the Walking Dead series.
yes, kind of. It is still very much the Resident Evil game style, where it's still a third-person shooter, and there's co-op in there, which does make it a little bit more interesting. I mean, I was very hesitant about it, just because I'm very hesitant about giving money to Capcom these days, just because of how they handle themselves over the last couple of years. It's been very iffy and just very weird. The game itself, it felt fine. It felt fun, at least. But overall, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if the game is good, I'll certainly try to give it money. I don't know. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts?
I'm not too into the episodic games, mostly lack of internet.
But yeah.
kind of that, but I would be kind of leery of it just because it kind of sounds like they're trying to capitalize on the indie thing.
Mm-hmm.
And any time that a big corporation does that, they tend to not have the same charm for some reason.
Yeah. How about you, QuickKick?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, it is a growing issue because it's becoming more widely practiced. Uh, we keep seeing more and more companies are trying to have these episodic games. My problem with it is they're not accounting for the fact that okay, you're taking a already made game and chopping it up into pieces and then selling it out. We know this.
Mm-hmm.
So why are we going to pay $60 a pop when the entire thing is only worth $60 a pop to begin with? You know,
Well, to be honest, when the episodes come out, they're only like $5 each.
okay.
Uh,
Yeah,
and
those
like when the final episode itself is released, which I think is maybe 5 episodes or so long, you're paying probably $20 to maybe $30, maybe.
mhm.
Oh, that is a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah, see that I can go with.
Yes.
Yeah.
What gets to me is when you get full price games
Yeah.
coming out and they're incomplete. Like a lot of people have been bringing up, you
Yeah.
know. And also, the other thing to keep in mind is just like was this designed originally to be episodic?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think something like that I don't mind. I
Yeah.
think that's some cool opportunities as far as storytelling, gameplay and all that. You know, my biggest thing is was this thing naturally designed to be episodic, or are they just trying to be, opportunistic?
Yeah.
So,
I was actually kind of curious if the first Resident Evil uh, Revelations game was episodic as well, because I don't think it was. I think it was just a straight up game that was just released. Uh, uh, I mean, even on physical copies, I believe it was released. And in some cases, for some episodic games, like I believe there is a physical copy version of the Walking Dead series that's out, and can be bought, with all the episodes on it. And I think even some of the bonus episodes on there as well. I think I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah,
I know for a
that
lot
could
of
be, but I haven't seen any of it.
yeah. I know for some online only games that maybe do have a pretty popular following do eventually get some kind of a physical release. Like I know in Blood Dragon's case, that actually got released as a bundle pack with like Far Cry 2 and 3. Which is really sweet.
Which I'll have to find.
Yeah.
Next time them all.
But yeah.
No idea when that'll be though.
Yeah. But overall, Capcom. They've made a lot. Obviously, a lot of great games series that have stood the test of time. A lot of them that really kind of did in a way kind of break new ground. Resident Evil did kind of make a survival gaming popular. Street Fighter made the fighting game genre more popular than it had ever been. There was Devil May Cry, which was just a fun, silly kind of send-up to those kind of universes. I never really got into the Monster Hunter series itself. I know they're very popular. I know that.
I played the first one, and it was okay.
Yeah. It does kind of seem like with most big corporations, they do take their popular properties and eventually kind of run them into the ground with sequel after sequel after sequel.
Yeah.
Which was kind of sad because when Devil May Cry got its reboot of DMC, which at first, when I did see it, now, and I'm not the biggest fan of Devil May Cry, I did enjoy it. I thought the story and the character overall was pretty goddamn silly and ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because it was meant to be.
Yeah.
But I actually, I thought the reboot was pretty good. I know that was one where a lot of people were split to where a lot of people hated it, and even wrote to the president himself about getting the game removed from store shelves.
Yeah.
No joke.
That wasn't embarrassing at all for all Americans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
you made Dante emo. Wasn't he already emo?
Yeah, but still.
Now he's angry emo.
But I don't know. Capcom. I still like them. It's just one of those very weird places to be in, where it's like, yeah, I love their games, but as a company, they kind of suck. But then again, that could be said probably about anybody, really.
I know that's just corporations in general.
Yeah. Well, all right, everybody. I think those are going to be our final thoughts. Unless anybody want to add a little something extra.
I was going to chime in for a little extra thing. We brought up we talked about the practices of chopping up games and selling them, but since we brought up a fighting game to start this whole conversation off, yeah, I honestly don't get into fighting games all that much. But I was going to ask you guys, for a fighting game to, as you guys said, add some more fighters or add some more skins or things like that. Do you think that warrants enough change to make it a completely separate game?
It depends on how much of it they do.
Yeah, and
if they're doing like, say, to where they might as well just make a whole new game out of it, then yes. If it's just like one or two things, then no, that should just be DLC.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it would also depend on like what's available and like how much are they trying to get out of it. Because I know some games. Hell, I know there are a lot of notorious games that are really shitty about, hey, you want this new color for this character? Well, you're gonna have to pay for it. Like, I have to pay to customize. Fuck you.
Yeah.
I don't know if Capcom has ever done that. Actually, I wouldn't really be too surprised if they tried to do that. In some cases, if a game tries to do that, and it's, if it's something that you don't need in order to play the game, then that's forgettable.
Yeah.
I can see it, being a huge pain in the ass and a huge mark against the game itself. But yeah, I don't know. Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah, well, I mean, just looking at the thing, you guys mentioned like how much new stuff they bring into a game like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about things with Capcom. Uh, yeah, for me, the watermark for this kind of thing is Mortal Kombat and that property.
Mm-hmm.
You look at when those games come out, it's just like it's not just new fighters and stuff. It's like new fighters, new styles, new customization all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
To me, you know, I don't want like all games to model themselves after that, but to
Yeah.
me, that is you know, the definition of when you have a new game, you want to charge a new full price property, you
Hmm.
know, it's got to be, a sea change like that. You know,
Yeah.
uh, biggest biggest criticized property, that's guilty of this is Madden. You
Oh
know,
yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
how little that game has changed over the decades, or how slowly it has changed over the decades. You just,
And that's another game series that they release a new one every year, especially.
yeah, and then like another example would be the Dynasty Warrior games.
Yeah. Don't those come out maybe like every couple of years though? Or
Yeah,
do
but
they?
it's basically the same game again and again, just with like some slightly different skins and better graphics to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never actually played the Dynasty Warriors game, and to be fair, I've never played uh, really much of the Madden games. But from what I've seen from a lot of the EA Sports games, like hell, when I saw Rachelect play the NHL 15, they didn't even know how the hell, or even if they could, change teams at all. So, and again, I mean, I don't know if that's a fault of the game or because it was still installing or whatever kind of bullshit that was. All right, but anyway, we need to wrap this up. So, everybody, this has been our discussion on Capcom. What are your guys' thoughts? Please let us know, and we will see you guys next time for a brand new episode of The Other People. Until then, we will see you around. Bye.
Bye.
Do it again. Do it again.